Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, my name is Nobody James coming at you for Nobody Entertainment. I'm going to do my quick review of the game Carrion, or Carrion, which was released for the Xbox 360 and Steam on July 23rd of 2020, so not too long ago. I recently picked this game up on Xbox Game Pass and played it for the subscription of $14.99 per month, I do believe is where it fell. This game was developed by Phobia Game Studio and released or slash published by Devolver Digital. And I just want to take a moment to give my full review of the game Carrion, or again, Carry On. Basically, the game is set in a underground facility of unknown location. You play as basically an amorphous blob monster that is released from its containment and tasked with the job to, I assume, essentially escape. Basically, you're going through each level and leveling up by breaking open these containment facilities and then again consuming soldiers and scientists and things of the sort. The thing I really appreciate about this game is its Metroidvania style of gameplay. Again, you start out as just a roaming blob of pink monster fluid or whatever the case you might think, I guess. And the controls are pretty intuitive in the sense that you would move around with the left stick so you can go up, down, left, and right. Your tentacles that extend from your body kind of move you up, down, left, or right. And then your right thumbstick will extend your tentacle out so you can grab switches, open doors, and attack again soldiers and or scientists. And you grab the right trigger to be able to grip onto them, and then you bring them back to your mouth, which then allows you to consume them. That is the way that you regain health along the way. After you open those containment units, you pick up different abilities. Like, for instance, you can shoot a webbing that allows you to open switches from afar, or whenever you go underwater, you break into these little particles that allow you to pass through these gates that may not have previously been accessible. So the actual advancement tree, although it is not scripted specifically, so you aren't particularly putting points into specific categories, you are growing at the rate that the game specifically allows you or wants you to. The game is probably only about 4 to 5 hours long. If you know exactly where you're going and what you're doing, you could probably knock it out in about a 2-hour window. One of the things that I've heard as a complaint about this game from beginning to end is probably the lack of a map. Again, being a Metroidvania style game, it doesn't necessarily give you exactly what or where you're supposed to go, but it has you run into some doors that won't open unless you acquire certain skills along the way. Some of those skills, like I said, are quick and simple, pushing knobs, pushing buttons, whatever the case may be. Other ones are a little bit more intuitive, like inhabiting the bodies of some of the soldiers and using them to sneak past some of the other enemies and then push the switches that you might need to advance. I will admit that I found myself getting lost regularly in this game, but it didn't at any point take away from what I was hoping or expecting from this. I believe the game is and or was released on Steam for $19.99, and based on what I'm seeing right now, that is the case. I think if you were going in it from that price tag, it's probably a little bit steep. I would probably wait for a bit of a sale at $9.99 maybe. But having delved into it for Xbox Game Pass, I think it was a pretty great investment and a good game to play through. I like the creature design. I like the level design. I like the challenges because essentially room to room, it becomes more of a puzzle platformer versus an actual just action platformer. Although the visuals and the aesthetic are a little bit more exciting. You pick up these enemies and you throw them around the room, or again, you can just bring them to your mouth and you'll bite off pieces of them that replenish your health and grow your abilities. As you advance, you become more and more powerful, so you can take more damage. You again run into these pools that allow you to break up and allow for a little bit more challenging puzzles moving forward. So I believe the way it's set up, if I can remember right, you have 3 different tiers. So once you level up at a certain point, you go into a yellow tier, and then you go up again, getting you into a red tier, if this makes any sense. All 3 of which you're growing in size and abilities. Once you get to the end of the game, you find yourself not being able to pass through certain doors because some of your actual abilities are attached to your tier. So if you're in tier 1, you can shoot webbing. If you're in tier 2, you can grow spikes and do a lot more damage. And then in tier 3, you can do, I won't say that part, I guess, for spoiler reasons, but several other things. So if you need to be able to shoot the webbing, then you have to retreat back to some of these pools that are hidden throughout the levels, drop off some of your growth. So you kind of deposit these little sacks into these pools, and then you can take from your tier 1 level and go back and shoot the webbing. And then you can infect another portion of the level to regain your mass, and you get your other abilities back. The game, again, like I said, not an aggressively long game, almost perfectly paced. I had to resort to a walkthrough just a couple of times to kind of get to the end because I was doing it in just my pastime. I didn't want to spend forever on the game. But overall, I think it was a very, very worthwhile investment. I think it was a lot of fun. Again, the creature design is very neat. The actual difficulty of the game is probably nowhere above, on a scale from 1 to 5, probably a 3. I think if you're not the most clever person in the world, or you don't find yourself having too much fun with puzzle platformer kind of style games, then you're probably not going to have the most fun with this game. But I like it because it kind of ran into a couple situations where it made me feel lost or confused without ever feeling just completely dumb. Again, if you invest the time and effort, you probably figure it out pretty quickly and pretty easily. The ending of the game, a little bit lackluster, but I don't think you really expect too much because the storyline doesn't necessarily present itself as the forefront of the focus. It's almost comparable to something like an original, like an SNES style game, where you are just trying to get from beginning to end without much backstory or character development, growth, whatever the case is. It does give you a little bit of information about kind of where this monster came from. And actually the way that it ends is kind of neat. And I would like to see a sequel come from this because it could go in some pretty interesting directions. I like what they have done with this. If I were to rank it on a scale, on our scale of garbage, blank, good, great, gaga, I'd probably say that the game is at the very least great. There are a couple small things that hold it back from me being gaga over it. But if you're interested in an SNES style action puzzle platformer, then I think this game is going to be for you. So with that being said, this has been Nobody Jaymes coming at you for the review of Carrion or Carry On. I hope you guys check it out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.